Hi, it's Chris with Implied Music. We've been talking about polymeters, about interference of periodicity, and sort of at level one, where simple phrases of differing lengths combine to create resultant rhythms or resultant melodies. That's sort of a function of the least common multiple. But what we haven't tried yet, and what we're going to do this week, is breaking up those melodies into more complicated rhythms and perhaps more complicated melodies. And when we do that, we get much more engaging and sort of more difficult to listen to and more difficult to work with interactions. Certainly more difficult to perform like off the top of your head. And of course, with a DAW, you can just layer things in like strata, like geological layers, right? One thing at a time. So I've got 6 examples, 7 really, because I've created a small, orchestral ensemble piece that uses differing instrumental textures to help separate those layers to the ear. Well, chit chat, let's jump in. So I want to start with the orchestral ensemble piece. It's a small ensemble, strings with double bass, piano, marimba. The piano is in 6, Andalusian cadence, just down and back up again. And the marimba kind of is more in 4, with these little cellular melodic phrases which seem to cross the bar line in interesting ways. The difference between 4 and 6, and then the gradually increasing length of those cellular phrases, you'll see what I mean, create an interesting effect. Let's listen to it and watch it go by on the screen. And now viola and violin. Well, listen, we're going to come back to that, but let's dive into our 6 basic examples that I've done on piano. Well, before we jump into these, I just want to say, if this is the second or third video of mine you've seen and you're getting something out of the channel, and I certainly hope you are, and you're not subscribed, now's the time to subscribe. It's easy enough, right? And if the video is interesting, I'd love to hear what you have to say about it, what you think about this kind of work. Comments are great for the channel, but I'm also interested in sort of dialing more towards what people's main interests are, like the video, of course. And, I just want you to know that while this may be kind of academic, I'm not interested in music theory as an academic pursuit. I'm a practical composer and a pianist, and I've used music theory to further my own ends. And what I'm hoping is that we're doing music theory here for a purpose, for you. And I'm hoping that you can find your way towards a music theory that defines your interests. My teacher, Dr. Roland Wiggins, said you must become your own theorist. And I don't think I can say that enough. I've taken it to heart, and I hope you will too. Well, I've got these 6 examples, so let's drop into the first one. This first example is a tango bass. Instrumental forms that are familiar tend to work really well in polymeters. This tango bass, which is very much in 4, is contrasted with a figure of 3 up in the right hand. And you can hear the 3 here against that. We'll take a little break and just go into that. Chords can change, and as the chords change, you've gotta adjust the figure at the right moment in the other hand. If you can manage that, you'll get something pretty interesting. The chords may change in one part at a funny place in the other part, and yet you go ahead and make the shift. And that is kind of a main trick of doing this polymeter thing. If you want to stay within a harmonic framework, make the harmonic shift happen in both hands, no matter where you are in the phrase. And weirdly, it can be very exciting, and it's always fun. It's interesting. It works out in strange ways. We're going to see that coming up in all of these examples. Well, let's go on to the second example. The second example is kind of interesting because I'm thinking 3 in the left hand, but then 2 against 3 in the right. Now, the funny thing is the 2 against 3, which is a polyrhythm, I'm doing a 3-note phrase, so it keeps cycling against itself. And again, I'm making tiny little adjustments to the phrase, harmonic adjustments to accommodate the shift of chords. This actually could be counted a number of ways, and that very often comes up in polymeters. Let's go on. Well, sometime around 1980, my drummer friend, Dan Gold, said, let's do Gentle Giants just the same. And the unique thing about that song is the guitar and piano part begin in a fast 7/8, offset by an 8th note, and then the bass and drums come in 6. So I thought, let's do something very much like that here. So apologies to Gentle Giant, but the right hand is in 7, and the bass, the left hand, is in 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. One, two, three, four, five, six. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Do you hear the bass? And of course, it takes 42 beats to roll around. So as a least common multiple challenge, this one's very long. Props to our singer in that band, Amy Denio, for managing to stay in touch with it the whole time. Amy Denio, the great Seattle-based saxophonist, composer, and singer. Really worth knowing her work. Let's go on. This is pretty much a straightforward 3/4, and the patterns are much more like a level 1 challenge. You'll see what I mean. Here, though, because you have short notes and long notes, the interactions of the rhythms are much more interesting. And you can see I have to change, again, tones within the phrases at irregular places to accommodate the chord progression. Using that modal exchange again. And of course, part of what's exciting about this for me is these interacting parts, these sort of like meshing of gears, give me an opportunity to use lots of notes from a mode or scale, kind of not exactly at once, but at least within a very short amount of time, so that I'm getting modal saturation. I'm getting a lot of notes from the mode, and it kind of tickles my ear in an interesting way. Let's go on. 5/6, Yeah. So a simple sort of descending five-note arpeggio or pentatonic pattern in the right hand is scalular, and the left hand has an arpeggio rising up and down. The interaction of the parts is interesting because, again, as the chord changes, the five-note pattern has to shift in exactly the right place. It's sort of a version of the creep progression, isn't it? Little variation. This one, again, more a level two because a very steady pattern in the right hand makes it possible to sort of integrate the two parts. But the harmonic shift, the harmonic rhythm, is going against the five in a big way. And so it requires a vigilance on our part to make sure everything lines up. Remember, the harmonic rhythm is yet another cycle that can be used in interference of periodicity. It doesn't have to be on the same meter or time scale as the instrumental form parts, right? It could be a whole other concept. Whew, wow, man. All right, I've got one more example from this set, and then we'll go back and listen to that small orchestral ensemble piece again. Again, we've got a steady sort of rhythmic instrumental form in the left hand, kind of a dreamy, syncopated pattern in 4, very clear. And then the right hand in 3 with a little isorhythmic form in that as well. And again, we have to be really aware of where the harmonic rhythm shifts in order to accommodate those shifts in each of the patterns at different places in each pattern. Okay, here's that pattern in the left hand. And then the right hand comes in 3. Again, it's really modally saturated and satisfying to my ear in an interesting way. Well, with what we've just sort of picked up, let's go back and revisit that first piece, the little ensemble piece. So when I'm writing something like this, I like to sort of start with a harmonic idea, and my harmonic idea is quite simple. This bass line, which is the Andalusian cadence in 6, and that's this blue shape here. And I'm using the pedal, but you can see it goes out not one measure to here, but a measure and a half, 6 beats. Now against that, a bass line which moves similarly, descending, although not along the same notes, in 4 beats. And this is a just big bowed cello, big bowed bass, and then cello doubling that. Now up here, marimba, and the marimba's in 4 as well. So we've got 6 and 4, and they're both sort of traveling and coming back, but I've got to be careful about how they do because they're going to create some dissonances otherwise. So looking at, any given moment, like here in bar 7, we've got an F in the bass here against a B flat down to A. That's going to be okay, right? And then just the rest of kind of a big old sort of F6-9 chord up at the top. And that's a modally saturated sound. Now, I've added those little melodic fragments to the top in the piano. Those melodic sort of cellular melodies draw the ear, and here you can hear the repetition of them sort of lengthens to create a sense of what's going on, where's the meter bar line. Now, violas and violins come in doing the same thing. violas are steady there, and then the violins take that sort of melodic cellular idea and sort of vary it, extend it, place it in different places. Just drop it down in the bar in a way that feels intuitive and that sort of breaks up the regular interaction of those polymetrical parts. Whenever you're doing this, you're always engaged in a dance, a mental dance or creative dance between a considerable amount of planning, because it requires some forethought to do this, and also just plain old intuition and spontaneity. Little cellular phrases like that on the top can be dropped in kind of based on what you like. You can try 5 different passes at it and see which one you like the best. And that sort of thing is really intuitive, right? You set up something that's almost algorithmic and let it provide a base, an idea on which you then build based on your spontaneity and creativity, your intuition. This is one of the things I love about this kind of writing, because I'm always engaged in a dialogue with the two sides of my creativity, the sort of planning, scientific side, and the more spontaneous, artistic side. Well, I hope this has been useful. Like and subscribe, ding the bell to be notified when I do my videos. I'll see you next time.